Today we're making a slow-cooked braised pork out of a pork loin to use for tacos, bowls, burritos, really anything you like to use pulled pork for. Making braised pork can seem so intimidating, but today we're going to make a simple recipe that takes roughly 3 to 4 hours depending on the size of your pork, and it comes out juicy and tender every time. What we'll be using today is a 2-pound pork loin. Make sure if it was frozen that it's completely thawed, and you want to let it sit out to come to room temperature for about an hour or two before you are ready to cook your pork. So we have our 2-pound pork loin here. We're going to take it and we're going to pat it dry. You just want to make sure to get all the excess moisture off of it. Once we've dried our pork loin, we're going to cut it into 4 equal pieces. Once we've cut our pork into 4 equal pieces, we're going to season it. Now notice we've got a nice thick piece of fat on here. We want to keep that on because that's really going to help lock in those juices and keep this pork very tender. So we'll transfer our pork to a different container. And I like to do 2 pieces at a time. And we're going to take our seasoning. Our seasoning is a mixture I will put in the description below. But this is going to give it a little bit of spice, a little bit of saltiness, and a little bit of smoky flavor. Make sure that all sides of the pieces are coated well. Now that our cast iron Dutch oven has started smoking, now it's time to add our pork. Now we're going to add 2 pieces at a time. This allows the pan to not be overcrowded, so that way they'll get a nice sear. And we're going to sear on all sides for 4 minutes each. When we're searing these, 4 minutes seems like a lot, but trust me, even if they look a little bit burnt, it's going to be perfect because that really locks those juices. It's going to allow for more tender pulled pork at the end. Arrange the pork so you can add all the pieces to the pan. Now it will be crowded. Add 1 cup of water. And then you're going to add this to the oven that is preheated to 300 degrees and let it cook for 3.5 to 4 hours. It's been 3.5 hours. We finally got our pork out of the oven, so now it's time to cut the pork and put it back in its juices to keep it nice and juicy. Now you could just take your pork and take a couple forks and shred it, but what we like to do is take a piece and cut it against the grain. So what that does is it makes the fibers just that much smaller and makes it a lot more tender, and then when you put it back in the juices, keeps it nice and juicy. Look at how delicious that is. It's just falling right apart. Now after you cut the pork, you can take some forks and just shred the pieces, mix them with their juices. So we've got that water, and then we've got that really nice seasoning we put on it. Now it does take a little bit of time to make this. This was 2 pounds and it took about 3.5 hours, but the end result is so delicious. It's so juicy and tender. It'll be perfect addition for any of your meals. Our favorite way to eat this is with some homemade corn tortillas with some black beans, lime, cilantro, and onion. But this would be a great addition to some sandwiches, burritos, bowls, soups even, whatever you like to use pulled pork for. So there you have it. Very juicy, very tender. You can't go wrong with this braised pork recipe. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Mmm. Mm-hmm. Mm.